Alright, it's been a while since I made one of these presentations, but I thought I'd exercise some of my course material. Something short I learned. Basically, it's a lens understanding of, how you view the world. So your perceptual set, your worldview, or your lens. Right here are the lenses. Now, what I've learned is that I was making a very, very big mistake. Okay, I had a lens of what I thought an astronomer, an astrophysicist, a geologist, a chemist, and geophysicist. This is supposed to be geophysicist. Anyways, I had a lens as to what they should be knowing, what they should understand about the world. I was conditioned by society. It says here, I wrote, society places a standard upon individuals to believe that educated and only, keep that in mind, only educated people who have formalized degrees know what they are talking about. That couldn't be further from the truth. But I didn't realize that I had that lens. Further on, astronomers, astrophysicists, geophysicists, chemists, and geologists are trained to perceive that people without these formalized degrees cannot make major scientific discoveries. Note that, major scientific discoveries. Because they would have already probably known it. They'd be the first one. They should be the tip of the spear, if you will, like a Marine Corps term. But on the bottom is my crowd, people that are similar to me, and that they're people who make discoveries outside of university in groups and outside of universities altogether. That is a very powerful position, as we will learn later on in these talks. But basically, you have a lens where they perceive people without formalized degrees as being essentially uneducated, and they couldn't possibly make discoveries. And then you had the lens of uneducated people without the formalized degrees looking up at them, expecting them to know what they're talking about. So what you have here is essentially the same thing, okay? You have people that don't know what they're talking about that trust these people, and people who have these degrees that distrust whatever comes out from this area of the spectrum. But I was making the mistake when I discovered that Earth is a very ancient star that is differentiated, and it takes something as large as a star to make something as massive as the Earth. I was in for a rude surprise. I realized that I did have a lens. I had a perceptual set as to what these people should be knowing. So when I was writing to them in emails, in online forums, and science forums, things like that, I expected these people to know what they were talking about, because my perceptual set was of them being educated. As it turns out, the discovery I made will cause an enormous amount of conflict inside of these groups. So basically what happened was, I got rid of that lens, and I saw things for as they really were. These people didn't quite know what they were talking about on the large scale. Sure, they can get little small things down, especially the chemists. They're pretty bright individuals. But for the most part, astronomers, they just take pictures of the stars and galaxies and things. And astrophysicists, they try to apply what we think we know to the stars. But they're doing it all wrong. And geologists, well, they should know this theory, if anything, because they need it bad. Plate tectonics is horrible. Astronomers, pictures, okay, you guys are cool, but all the others, chemists, they need to learn how to apply their studies to the astronomy area where all the stars are as they cool and die. But anyways, I could see them for what they really were. But the thing is, the people on this top end that are supposedly educated, they will never recognize people outside of universities altogether or outside of the university in-groups, because they have that lens. There's no way to get rid of that lens from this side unless they choose to understand that maybe, just maybe, there are some individuals down here that actually know what they're talking about and actually have something important to tell them. So unless that happens, that lens is always going to be there. these guys are going to be clueless, and I'm going to be looking at them as if they're idiots. But there are some individuals that actually watch these videos that have already done this. They can see that sometimes there are exceptions, and this theory I'm developing, I think, is an exception, being that many other people before me have come to realize the same thing. And what we have here for another talk, I'm going over this, but I still have yet to learn completely about what it means. Basically, this is called the TRIP model, T-R-I-P. Now you have your topic, which is T, your relations, your R, your identity or face saving, which is I, and then you have your P, which is a process for going about the conflict. So for instance, when you had the argument over what constituted planet, when they argued over, Pluto being a planet or not, that was the topic. What is it about? Is Pluto a planet? The relation struggle. Who are we to each other? Since they were all astrophysicists and astronomers, all in the same groups, it made it very difficult because they were all in the same group. The struggle was very real for them. Identity, face-saving struggle. People's identities were going to be in jeopardy if they didn't do something about it, because you can't put things in textbooks that you don't all agree with, somebody else doesn't agree with it, and makes them look bad. You don't want to do that to people. So they had to think of a way to process the conflict, to get it all out in the open. What they decided to do was vote on it, because a consensus where everybody agrees is clearly bad. Okay? So they voted on it. They voted that Pluto wasn't a planet, but in all, it's a meaningless argument. But they did have that conflict. It was real, and it was a struggle. But anyways, that all amounts to, your perceptual set too, in your worldview. And there are all these scientists inside of these groups that also have lenses between each other that are all around and, prevent people from understanding what's going on between each other. For instance, there are actually lenses between chemists and geologists. There are lenses between geologists and astronomers. They all look at each other as if they're uneducated idiots that don't belong in their field. They have like turf battles, if you will. But yeah, today is February 2nd, 2016. Hopefully this helps people understand a little better what's going on here.